Okay, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Mental Health Wellbeing Workshop presented by Colors, A Happy Place, and Rahi, your emotional first aid. I am Archit.
And I'm Ruchika.
We are the co-founders of Colors and the host and your host for the evening.
We have some ground rules for the smooth conduct of the workshop. We do not want to look like a lecture, so please keep your webcam on during the session. We will have a Q&A round in the end. So in case you have any questions, like alongside the topics going on, you can put your questions in the chat box.
Yes, the participants are requested to keep their mic on the mute mode at all times. Make sure you're sending your questions to either of Archit, Mansi, or Ruchika. Otherwise, we could miss out your questions. Thank you all for coming. We know that the post COVID period hasn't been easy or kind to any one of us, whether it's working professional or the students. It is very important to take care of yourselves as well as your mental health.
So before we start, let us tell you a little about ourselves. Colors, a happy place, is a club of NIT Kurukshetra. Founded in 2020, Colors completed its 1 year on 24th July. Colors is an earnest endeavor in the mental health domain. We work towards normalizing mental health conversations, breaking the stigma, spreading awareness around common mental health issues. I think someone is unmuted.
Yeah, whoever's mic is on, please unmute.
Yeah, please do that. So I'm sorry for the break in the flow. Okay, so we work towards normalizing mental health conversations, breaking the stigma, spreading awareness around common mental health issues, and promoting health-seeking behavior at times of turmoil. Link is in the chat box. Please follow us to know more. We are very proud to collaborate with Rahi.
Rahi, your emotional first aid, is a startup advocating for mental and emotional health, led by three women who saw their friends suffering from mental health issues, but no means or resources available at their hand to combat it. The shame around seeking help and talking about one's feelings, traumas, and mental disabilities must be eradicated once and for all. And with this motto, Rahi aims to eradicate the stigma around therapy and mental health, and hence start a conversation that empowers people to seek help. With 15 therapists on board, Rahi provides a hassle free and affordable way of seeking help. If you find yourself in a position to get professional help, you can reach out to them, and they will make sure you get a comfortable and a confidential space and the best counseling experience. You can see the link in the chat box.
Stress and rejection are already common amongst students, but ever since the pandemic, it has increased. We're trapped inside our homes, studying, completing assignments, and preparing ourselves for the real world, which is not easy. Unless we learn to deal with the stressful situations and deal with rejections. But don't worry, we got you covered with this beautiful workshop with our therapist for the evening, Regina De Cruz. Regina has completed her master's in psychology from Montfort College, Bangalore, with 5 years of work experience in the field. She has worked as a school counselor and as an online therapist with an expertise in working with adolescents and young adults.
Thank you, Ruchika. Guys, before starting the workshop, please keep some things in your mind. This workshop is not a replacement for therapy. The suggestions shared here are generalized and most things take practice. If you feel you're struggling to handle things by yourself, please ask for help from a professional so they can focus on individual differences. In the workshop ahead, we will be discussing what is therapy, what is stress management, and how to deal with the rejections. Over to you, Regina.
Yes, thank you, Archit and Ruchika, for that introduction. And I want to thank Rahi and Colors for giving me this opportunity. And I hope all of you all have a fruitful workshop and take something away at the end of it. So let me just share my screen and we'll get started right away. Can you all see my screen? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, like Archit said, we'll talk a little bit about therapy, about mental health, and then go into what about rejection and stress and how to deal with those things. Yeah. So first of all, what is mental health? So it is a buzzword right now. A lot of people are talking about it online, and along with the pandemic, this has become a much more spoken about thing right now. So mental health is nothing but our psychological, our emotional, and our social well-being. So generally, it is how we respond, how we act, how we feel, how we make decisions. So our mental health affects a lot of what we do, and a lot of also how we mingle with others. Yeah, so that is what mental health is. Now, mental health is different from mental illness. Mental health is generally when we speak about it together, but mental illness is when we speak about diseases and conditions specifically. So a person throughout their life goes through ups and downs with their mental health throughout. Does not mean that they have a mental illness, and also does not mean that they can't seek help. So remember, if you have a mental illness, definitely seek help, but it doesn't mean that you have to have a mental illness in order to seek help. Yeah, so the earlier you seek help, the better, because I mean, the earlier it's dealt with, the easier it will be, because once it becomes a little more serious, then it will take much more effort and time to deal with. Yeah, so speaking about all of this, why is mental health important? So a few statistics, and then we'll kind of go to the next slide. So 1 in 5 children and adolescents can be diagnosed with a mental health illness. 5% of the total world population has depression. And also there's a loss of $1 trillion globally every year because of productivity that gets affected because of anxiety and depression. And also suicide rates are higher every year. A lot of suicides are underreported. So there are a lot of things that mental health affects, and that is why it's important. So it's not just affecting you and me, it's affecting people around us, it's affecting our families, it's affecting jobs, it's affecting global economy itself. And that's why it's important to discuss and speak about and reduce the stigma around mental health. So let's talk a little bit about the different mental health professionals that are present in India and their qualifications, because when we seek help, it's important to go to the right people. There are a lot of people in India that are not qualified, that say they can help, but actually they're not the right professionals to go to. They're not even professionals per se, they just want to help, but it doesn't make sense to go to someone who's not qualified. So there are 3 general mental health professionals in India. First is the psychiatrist. So they are mostly present in hospitals and they have their own private practice. So they are medical doctors. They have an MBBS and they have an MD in psychiatry. So they are the ones who can prescribe medications. They can diagnose mental illnesses, and they can also kind of figure out whether any of these physical symptoms that we are having, is it because of a mental health condition or is it because of a physical health condition. So because a lot of things are intertwined, so kind of figuring out what is the issue per se, we have to go to a psychiatrist when there's a confusion. And also they deal with more serious mental health disorders, people who have to be hospitalized, people who need regular medication. So that's what a psychiatrist does. Clinical psychologists, on the other hand, they have an MPhil in clinical psychology from an RCI licensed institution. So here, these are not doctors, so they can't prescribe medication, but they still deal with diagnosed mental health conditions. They deal with people in hospitals, and they deal with a more serious level of the conditions that the next person deals with. So a clinical psychologist also can diagnose, they can do assessments, they can do testing. So they are the ones who say, okay, fine, this person has generalized anxiety disorder, or this person has OCD. So that diagnosis cannot be done by the counseling psychologist. So the counseling psychologist has a master's in psychology, any specialization. So they deal with the usual day-to-day problems. They can deal with mental health illnesses, but they will be working along with the psychiatrist in that sense. So the person who comes, the client, can also be going to a psychiatrist at the same time and coming to a counseling psychologist. So this is just for us to know who to go to. Counseling psychologists are the ones that are more in number because the qualifications are lesser. So we can kind of go to them first, and they can refer us to the other 2 in case it's needed. So some people also go to the psychiatrist first, and that's also okay. So now coming into what therapy is, there's a lot of confusion. Like, is this something that I can share everything with? Is it a secret? Is it something that they're going to tell me, advise me, or give me solutions? So there's a lot of confusion about what exactly is therapy. It's like this whole secretive thing that nobody knows what happens inside. It's like, oh, only once I attend a therapy session will I actually know. So I like to look at it as sort of a group project. So the counselor or the counselor or the therapist and the client is working on this group project together. So both of them are in the team, and the project is your mental health. Okay, so that's one way to look at it, because it shows that both people are involved. It's not just the therapist telling you what to do. It's not just the therapist telling you that this is your problem and this is the solution. It is more of a discussion. It is more of a joint effort. And also a lot more effort comes from the client, because it is their life that needs working on, and it's their life that needs change. So a lot of times it is also effort that we have to put in as the client, because see, it has taken a long time for us to reach where we are right now, in terms of our personality, in terms of life itself. So in order to make any sort of change, it takes time and effort. So yes, so that is what therapy is. And one important thing to remember is, once you start going to a therapist, you're not stuck with them forever. So you are able to change your therapist in case you don't connect with them. So some therapists are not ethical. You may feel like they're not really judging me, or they're saying certain things that make me feel worse. So then it's time to change the therapist. Or even in some cases, you just don't vibe with them. So you just don't connect with them, and that's also okay. So that's totally understandable, because the main important thing when it comes to therapy is the relationship between the therapist and the client. So if that's not there, then nothing really works after that. So really feel free to go to a different therapist and see whether they connect with you more, or you connect with them more, than just getting stuck with one therapist totally. Yeah, so now that we know a little bit about mental health and therapy and all of that, it's not really a secretive topic. Let's dive into the issues that we are all facing right now. That is rejection, and then we later go on to stress. So rejection is basically hearing no, somebody saying no to us, somebody saying no for a job, somebody saying no for a relationship, somebody saying no to hanging out with us. So we have all faced rejection at some point in our life. So I want you all to kind of think of the last time you felt rejected, and Archit or Ruchika will be sharing a link. I want you all to go to that link and type out, how did you feel when you got rejected? So think of the last time, the most recent time that you were rejected, and I want you to type out how you felt after that, and then we'll kind of see everybody's answers anonymously. Yeah. Is everyone able to go to the enter? Archit, can you check if you are able to see the...
Yes, it's accessible. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It is.
Yeah, because I'm not able to see it. 1 second. Can one of you all share your screens?
Yeah, can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to see that responses?
Yes, please. I think you'll just have to type one word.
Okay, let it be.
Wait, we're not able to see the word cloud, is it?
Maybe, yeah, that would be in the results. I'll be receiving an email, I think.
Okay.
Gina, did you create the link?
Yeah. Yes.
So you go to mentimeter.com. You can
Okay,
find
one
it from
second. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to. Okay, I think I am able to go to it. Sorry, guys, just give me a second. Yeah, I got it. 1 second. I'll just share my screen now.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you guys for sharing. Yeah. So the last time we got rejected and how did we feel? Okay. So a lot of us felt bad. A lot of us felt sad, demotivated, unwanted. I want to be left alone. Embarrassing. Yes, we feel like crying. So mostly it's sad and bad, disappointed, demotivated, hurt. Yeah, and it's all valid emotions. I mean, every time we feel rejected, it is normal to feel all of this, and we're not alone in this feeling. It's normal to feel bad. It's normal to feel like crying sometimes. It's normal to feel like I want to be alone, like really stressed out, and also I don't want to try again. So that feeling comes up a lot. Like just because it happened once, it may happen again, and I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm a loser. Feeling anxious, I don't deserve it. Yeah, thank you everyone for sharing. So going back to our presentation. So now that we know how we feel when we are rejected, and also we know that we're not alone in that, because a lot of us do feel that together separately. So we are feeling it, but then we kind of try to feel it in our own spaces. So let's look at how to deal with this rejection, or how to cope with this rejection. And we'll mainly be looking at it in 4 ways. So 4 ways to cope. One is the circle of control. A second is changing the dialogue. Third is growth mindset. And fourth is building job esteem. So first, circle of control is looking at it from the perspective of what is under my control and what is not. So it's basically 2 concentric circles here. The outer circle is not a circle here, but it's okay. So let's look at the outer circle now. That's things that are not under our control. So remember, these things are not under our control, but we can influence them a little bit. We can do certain things about it, but the final decision or the final thing that happens is not under our control. So it is not completely under our control and something that we can change directly. So those things include war, the economy. We can't change the weather. We can't really change and solve world problems totally. We can't control other people's opinions. We can't control aging. We can't control the past. We can't control the future. So you all can see the rest of the things that are written in the outer circle. So trying to accept like, okay, all of these things we can't really control, and let them go, because we focus a lot of our energy worrying about things that we can't control, and we forget about this inner circle. We forget about the circle, that the things that are totally under our control, and those are our actions, our behavior, the way we talk to ourselves, our beliefs, our opinions, our mindset, how I see myself, my media intake, my core values. So all of these things are totally under our control. So kind of trying to move focus from the things that are not under our control to things that are under our control, because there we have more more choices. There we have better understanding of, and then we don't have to really depend upon anybody else to make that change, unless other than ourselves. Yeah, so in looking at this, if we go to the job perspective, so when we look for a job, the same understanding of what we can control and what we can't. Let's look at it from the perspective of a job search. Here, the circles are different. So here, the middle one is what you can't control, and the outer one is what you can control. So let's look at the middle circle first. So what can't you control? You can't control another applicant being a better fit. You can't control the hiring manager having a bad day. You can't control the number of applicants that apply for the job. There are many, many other things that we can't control. We can't control if, what about the hiring manager? What if we had a fight with his wife and then he comes to talk to you? So obviously that interaction is not going to be nice, and what if, out of 100 applicants, you are the 101st, the next applicant after that. So the person is going to be tired. Another thing happens that suddenly they decide to close that role to hire someone internally. Sometimes out of 20 openings, they now reduce it to 10. So all of these things are not really in our control. It's not something that we can change, or even if we knew it in advance, there's nothing we can really do about it. So there are a lot of things like this. I'm sure you all can think of more, the things that are not under our control when we go for job interviews. Sometimes, not sometimes, most of the times, managers have a specific idea of a candidate in their mind that will fit the role, that will fit the company. And they are looking for that one person. They're looking for that one kind of person. And maybe we are not that. Maybe we have done our maximum, we have done our best, we have prepared the best we can. We have like perfect CV, we have the perfect interviewing skills, all of that, but still we may not fit that candidate that they are having in mind. So all of these things are not under our control. So let's try to move from this focus to focusing on the things on the outer circle. And that is staying persistent, determined, working, going forward, and not really being demotivated about this. Tailoring our application to suit the role better. So kind of looking at each role you're applying for and changing your CV or changing the way you describe yourself accordingly. Writing an amazing resume that showcases your experiences and skills. So kind of seeing, how can I change my resume? Is there something better I can do? Can I add to my training? Can I add to my skills? Can I do some new courses? Can I do some new certificates? Pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. So not really sticking to only the jobs that we think we want, but also looking at what else is out there. What else can I apply for? So all of this is something that is completely under our control. I can look for different jobs. I can change my CV. I can, try to practice better to be good at talking. I can say yes to opportunities. I can kind of expand my horizons. I can talk to seniors about jobs. I can talk to potential employers about jobs. So all of these things are totally under our control. So try to move from focusing on this middle circle to focusing on the outer circle. And that is looking at it from that perspective. So going to the next way of coping with rejection is changing the dialogue. So it's changing the way we talk, changing the way we talk to ourselves, changing the way we talk to others about rejection. So try to avoid jumping to conclusions. Once or twice we get rejected and we immediately jump to the conclusion of, I'm never getting anywhere. Oh, I'm never going to get a job this year. Oh, I'm never going to get the salary I want. So kind of jumping to the conclusion of, I'm not good at this. Or, I'm never going to be good at any job. So we immediately jump to a conclusion even after 1 or 2 interviews, or 1 or 2 rejections from friends, from family members, from relationships. We immediately jump, I'm not good enough. So try to avoid doing this. Try to avoid negative self-talk. That's like telling yourself, I'm worthless, I'm a loser, I can't even, say my name properly. I'm so nervous all the time, I can't even, talk clearly. So kind of negatively talking about yourself, it does not do any good. It just kind of pulls you back down, pulls you deeper into, already we are feeling rejected and feeling sad. So on top of that, if you say, you're worse than you think you are, you're a loser, all of that, it's like kind of hitting yourself back lower and lower. This is something that we can really avoid. And it's something that we all do. We can kind of try to stop doing this or try to change the way we talk to ourselves. And also dwelling on it for too long. Like what you all shared, rejection does make us feel bad. It makes us feel demotivated. It makes us feel like crying. And that's all okay. But keep a timeline in your mind. Like, okay, I'm going to feel sad about this for the next 2 hours. I'm going to feel sad about this for the next 2 days. And after that, I'm going to move forward and I'm going to apply to new jobs. I'm going to see what I can do to my CV. I can maybe talk to a senior and see and ask them to rate my interviewing skills, etc., etc. So don't dwell on it for too long, because that's just going to make us focus on what we can't change, and that is the past. So try to move the focus to the future, what we can influence, what we can change. Yeah, so avoiding these three things and trying to replace that dialogue with things like, have I done my best? Is there anything that I made mistakes in? And nowadays, a lot of interviews are online, so we can actually record ourselves doing the interview, play it back again, see what we made mistakes in, ask friends who we trust, is there something I can improve on? Is there something I can work on? Now, remember, do this from a not from a lens of making fun of yourself or putting yourself down, because sometimes we look at ourselves and like, oh my God, I'm worse than I thought I was. Like, try not to do that. So try to look at it from the lens of how can I work on this, from a lens of compassion, from a lens of understanding, as you would do to a very close friend or a brother or a sister. Try to look at it that way. So how can I improve? Can I ask for feedback? So can I ask for feedback from the hiring team itself? Can I ask for feedback from my peers, from my seniors, from my teachers? And also thinking, it's okay, this happens. Rejection is part of life. It's normal. It's part of the process. It's something that everyone goes through. So replacing all of these things, those things with these sentences actually makes us feel better and pushes us forward instead of being stuck in that loop of getting, feeling bad about what happened. Another thing we can do is trying to change our mindset. So moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So what is a fixed mindset? So a person with a fixed mindset really thinks that their abilities, their intelligence, their skills, all of that are really static, and I can't really make any change about it. Like, this is who I am, and that's it. Like anything, for example, if a person is having stage fright, so a person with a fixed mindset would be, I have stage fright, that's it. Like, I can't really improve. I'm not taking anything that has to do with speaking on stage. I'm not going to do anything that has to do with giving a presentation because I have stage fright. Okay. So a person with a fixed mindset thinks that his abilities are not able to be changed. They either think that they can do it or they can't. So it's either 0 or 100. So either they are bad at it or they are really good at it. Whether it comes to technical skills or whether it comes to other interpersonal skills, communication skills. So a person with a fixed mindset really cannot see that middle ground. So it's either black or white. They don't see the gray. But most of the things in life, almost everything, is more gray than black or white. So instead of thinking I'm really bad or I'm really good at it, thinking I am learning. So moving from the fixed mindset to a growth mindset that thinks anything can be developed, anything can be learned, and anything can be cultivated. So if I'm bad at this right now, I can work on it. It doesn't mean I'm bad at this forever. So all of us would have been bad at something at one point. For example, most of you all don't know how to ride a cycle. As soon as we are born, we don't know how to ride a cycle. So does it mean we're just not going to try at all? Right? So moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, thinking that failure is an opportunity to grow. They usually look at failure as a way to learn. So when I failed here, what did I learn from it? Sometimes in that position, when you are actually feeling that rejection, it's difficult to see because we are feeling really bad. But after a couple of days, after a couple of weeks, looking back at it and seeing what did I learn from that? What could I have done better? So a person with a growth mindset looks at failure as an opportunity to grow. They think that they can learn anything. Anything is, possible. Doesn't mean that they have like very high expectations, but at least they are able to try and move forward. So they think that they can, my effort and attitude determines my abilities. Feedback is constructive. I like to try new things. So this is the difference between a person who has a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So we have to aim towards moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So that helps us not really dwell on the past, not really dwell on why did we get rejected, but how do I better myself in order to avoid it from happening again. And the last way to deal with that we can use to deal with rejection is building our job esteem. So you can do this by making a long list of bragging rights. So it's basically all what you accomplished, what you achieved, all your successes, what you're proud of. So make a long list of this. This is for yourself. You don't have to show anybody. You can write down maybe something that happened in when you were in 7th standard, or something that happened when you were in 6th standard. It doesn't have to be anything big. You can write personal accomplishments, you can write professional accomplishments, academic accomplishments, anything, but make a long list of it and go through this list when you are feeling low, after a rejection, even before an interview. So basically it builds confidence, it helps you feel better about yourself, and it kind of motivates you to be better, because when we are feeling confident, then whatever we prepared for also goes okay, it goes well. We might have this so many hours of preparation under our belt, but then the moment we start feeling stressed out and nervous, it all goes down the drain. So actually reading this list of bragging rights and reading the list of these achievements that we had, it can be as small as, I did a dance performance when I was in 10th standard, or I won this when I was in 11th, or I spoke to this girl who I want to speak to for 2 years. So basically anything under the sun that you feel was an accomplishment and that you were proud of, write it down. Keep it, like, if you want to stick it up in your room, if you want to keep it in your diary, keep it where you can go to it whenever you want to, whenever you feel like you need a pick me up, read it. And I would really suggest reading it before an interview, to increase that, to boost that job esteem of yours. And another good thing is you can use a few of these in interviews as well. So they usually ask the question, right? Like, what's one thing that you're proud of achieving? So you can use one of these when you are talking about yourself also. So yeah, these were the 4 ways to cope. I know it was a lot of information. I want you all to kind of absorb it. And Archit will be sharing another link in the chat. And there I want you all to kind of think of, now that we saw different ways to deal with it, I want you all to think of what would your updated dialogue to yourself be the next time you get rejected. So we saw what all we have to avoid. We saw all what we have to avoid. We saw all what we have to replace it with. We saw what we can control, moving from what we can to what we can't to what we can. So thinking of all of this, think of what would that updated sentence you would say to yourself be the next time you get rejected. Yeah, and then we'll all kind of, and you can also see others' answers and it will be anonymous. So let's go to the link and check it out. Take some time, think about it. And yeah, because I know that there was a lot of information. And I would really encourage you all to note down a few sentences that you'll see that your, the other participants have also written, because check what resonates with you, check what you connect with the most, and write it down for yourself also. I'm just going to share my screen, just a second. Yeah, I hope you all can look at the others. Yeah. Yes, so read all of them. Try to remember them. If you feel like certain things are resonating with you more, please write them down and use them when you feel like. I can see some really nice responses, really nice dialogues you can say to yourself. Have I done my best? What all mistakes did I make? Yes. Let's make another try with more power. I am learning every day. How can I improve?
There's somebody who wrote "Farak nahi padta."
It means
That
it doesn't
means
matter,
I
right?
don't care.
I don't care. Yeah, that's also good. That's also good. Because see, a lot of times we may do our best. We may, try so hard. We may practice so much. We may do so much of preparation, but it just doesn't happen. And there's no real fault of anybody's. It just means that we're just not the fit for that company. That's it. Because like I said, they have a very fixed idea of the person they want in mind. And when you are not that person, you can't really change yourself in order to fit that every company, right? So it is good to think of that. I don't care. I will care for the next one. Yeah, an opportunity to do better. Yes. So thinking that, okay, the next time, what can I do? So the next one is the opportunity to do better. Yeah, I'll give you all about a minute or two more to share. Okay, we want more responses. Come on, guys. Think of all of those what we spoke about. It's okay, all is well. I feel better and proud of my achievements. Yes, happiness is a choice. I am choosing to be happy. And also remember, take that time to feel bad. Take that time to cry. Take that time to say, please don't talk to me. I'm feeling really bad right now. But after that, give yourself that timeline. After this, I will move away from feeling this and move towards trying for the next one, moving towards applying for different jobs. Yeah, I will keep hustling. I was the best in class presentation. I did go on a date with a girl I had a huge crush on. Everyone knew me. I was famous. See, this is all what you can tell yourself. Definitely will make you feel better. And remember, these are all very personal things, right? You don't have to really tell everybody. You can just tell it for yourself. So say whatever you need to say to push yourself and make yourself feel better. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the presentation and we'll continue. I hope you all have written down what you all resonate with more. Write down even what you all have shared to use the next time it happens. Second.
Do you want me to share?
Yeah, I don't know why it's not happening. Yeah, please share it. Yeah. Yeah, so now that we've spoken about rejections, we'll move into speaking a little bit about stress and how to manage that. Because that's also something that we all face. It's a natural response. It's something that everybody deals with at one point or the other. So stress is a fear response that the brain does in order to kind of prepare the body for a threat. So this threat can be a real threat, as in a real danger, or it can be a perceived threat. So the brain thinks it's a danger, but actually it's not. For example, a real threat would be, say, somebody is chasing you, or a dog is barking at you really badly. So that's like a real danger. It's a real threat. Compared to tomorrow's an exam, it is scary, but it's not really dangerous, right? It's not life or death situation. But our brain makes mistakes, and it's not very evolved that way to kind of remember what is the difference between a real threat and a perceived threat. So when we feel stress, it's basically to prepare ourselves for that dangerous situation. So the body makes a lot of changes. There's a lot of physiological changes happening. Our hands start sweating, we're breathing faster, our heart is beating faster, there's more blood pumped into our hands and legs, there's less blood into our digestive system, and other systems of the body that's not really required at that time. So it's mainly focused on how do I deal with this danger that's right in front of me. And that is the body's way of preparing us to help us, basically, in order to prepare for that. For example, if we were not really stressed out, if someone was chasing us, we wouldn't get enough energy to run, or we won't get enough energy to ask for help. And also, for example, if we have an exam or an interview, if we are not really stressed out, we won't prepare for it. Be like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. So we do need a little bit of stress, but it's when that stress becomes extreme, when it becomes to a level that it's there all the time, or we're stressed out about every small thing. For example, we're going for a first date, and we are stressed out about how we look, and then kind of moving into, okay, how do I look when I say this, or how do I look when I smile, or what do I look when I lift my hand. So kind of if we kind of start stressing about every small thing, then it is a concern. Then it becomes a problem, thinking of, okay, if I'm stressed about every small thing, then I really need to do something about it. So there we have to tell our brain that, hey, listen, it's not dangerous, it's not a life or death situation, it's something that we can control, it's something that we can influence. So listen, calm down a little. It's just a date, it's just an interview, it's just an exam, we're not going to die. Because a lot of times the brain interprets these responses, these stressors that's out there, as very serious. And that's why the level of stress is very high. So how to deal with this stress is a lot of the things that we spoke about in the previous slides. We can use those. And along with that, along with trying to reduce our negative self-talk, along with trying to avoid jumping to conclusions, along with trying to make ourselves feel better, controlling our breath or working with our breath is also something that we can do. It's actually the first thing we must do when we are stressed, because a breath is the first thing that changes when we are stressed out. So if you notice, when you're stressed, you're breathing faster, right? So trying to control your breath and making it go slow and deep is indirectly telling our brain that we are relaxed and we are not stressed. So it's tricking our brain into thinking there's no danger here, there's no threat here, calm down. So first working with our breath, and then once we are calmed down, we are able to think better, we're able to make better decisions. We are also able to focus on those things that make more sense, or things that we can control. So I'll be guiding you all through a short deep breathing exercise right now. If you can all sit comfortably wherever you all are. I think the thing is getting stuck, Mansi. Oh, it's okay. Okay, so sit comfortably, hands on your stomach if you can, and try to breathe with the shape. So as the shape is becoming bigger, breathing in. And as the shape is becoming smaller, breathing out. So as you breathe in, your stomach is expanding. You're breathing in air into your body. And as you breathe out, it's all going back in, it's getting deflated. So try to make your breath in the rhythm of the shape. Breathing in with the shape, focusing on the center, and breathing out, slowly. As you breathe out, feel everything relaxing. Your shoulders, your jaw, your forehead. So all of these are areas where we hold tension. So as you breathe out, imagine the tension release from all of these areas. If you feel like you're thinking about something else, just notice and bring it back to the shape. You can do this with your eyes closed as well, but that might make us think about things, other things easily. So a shape helps us maintain that focus. We'll take a few more deep breaths, counting down from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, breathing in 4, breathing out 3, breathing in 2, and everything out, relaxing all the parts of your body 1. So now you all can breathe normally. So working on breath is an easy way because it's not really a lot of thinking we're doing. It's also something that you can easily do, whether you're alone or even if you are with people. There are a lot of GIFs just like this one available online. I would suggest download a few, keep it in your phone, easily accessible. And when you feel stressed out or nervous, open that, spend a few minutes doing this deep breathing exercise. If you can close your eyes and do it, good. If you want a better focus with the shape, use these. And once your breath is controlled, once it's slower, we will be able to move on to thinking clearly, thinking rationally, making a better decision, trying to problem solve. Because all of that can't be done when we are in that stressed out situation. When we are overwhelmed, we can't really think clearly. So breathing in and out and controlling that will help you prepare for the next stage, that is trying to work on that stress. How do I reduce that stress? So yeah, that is about stress. If you all want to know more, I've done another workshop with Rahi. It's on YouTube. It's all to do with how do you deal with stress and anxiety. It's a little more in detail. So for those of you all who really struggle with anxiety, that would be a good workshop to watch. It's on the Rahi page, I think, on YouTube. So yes, thank you. I hope you all have taken something out of it. Yeah, I think we can move on to the Q&A.
Yes. So everyone, next we have the Q&A round. So if you all have any questions, please type that in the chat box, but send those questions to me, Archit or Mansi only, or else your questions might go missed out. So your stage is open for your questions.
And like Archit said, it's not a therapy. It's not a replacement for therapy. So a lot of questions might be certain things that you all can address in therapy itself, because here what we spoke about is general, is things and tips and coping skills that we can all follow. But sometimes certain things don't work for some people, and each person is different, each situation is different. So that would be better to work on with your therapist in counseling itself. So I try my best to answer as much as possible, but more if you all need more help, definitely think of getting a therapist for yourselves.
Yeah, I have a question. How to stay focused even after facing a lot of rejections?
Okay. So yes, so I know this is something that everyone goes through, right? It's not just with jobs, but a lot of things. So it can be really demotivating. It can push you down to the ground. But like we spoke about, having those few things you tell yourself, that just because I've faced this so many times does not mean that it's going to happen again and again. We might feel like it is going to happen, but remember, our mind also makes mistakes sometimes, and we can tell our mind what to do. We can take more control over it. So when you are being rejected a lot, think about it for some time, feel that sadness, feel that rejection, feel that anger. I worked so hard on it, why is it not happening? But also move forward, or also think about, maybe go through what all you did in the previous interviews or jobs, and see if there's anything that was always happening. So maybe that is something that can be changed, or what was common in all of these interviews or rejections that I can work on. And maybe look at that bragging list to push yourself back up. Maybe apply for a different kind of job, maybe apply for a different kind of organization. And remember, they are looking for that one perfect candidate that they think that they need, and we may not be that. And that's okay. We may be the perfect candidate for another company, for another job, maybe not this one. So maybe out of that 11 job interviews you have gone, 10 you were rejected, but out of those, one would be the company that matches. So I think keep that hope alive in your mind. It's difficult, yes, but even surround yourselves with people who are hopeful and are motivating, not people who really put you down.
Okay, thank you so much, Regina. I have quite a few questions.
Okay.
One is, what to do if you have a sudden panic or anxiety attack?
Okay, so if it is regular, definitely try to get help, like professional help. Another way you can do it is, if you have trusted people around you, tell them in advance, listen, I might have this, and this is what we can do. So may have a plan in place. So if I'm having an anxiety attack or a panic attack, this is what I feel good. This is what how you can respond to me. Maybe you can take me to a separate place. Maybe you can give me water. Maybe you can tell me these things. So decide and plan in advance. With your close friends, with your family members, who is going to be around you most of the time, so they can really know what to do in that situation. And also learn a few things that you can learn in therapy itself, how you can calm yourself down. But having that plan in place, talking to others about it, will make it better, and you will get help in a better way in that moment, because you can't really do much until it gets over.
I have more questions. Archita, Mansi, does anyone want
I
to
just
put
have
theirs?
2 questions here, so I'll ask.
Mhm.
There's this question: how do we deal with inferiority complex?
Yeah.
Okay. So it may be deep seated. We don't know where it's coming from. Asking yourself, what are you really feeling inferior about? Is it in one particular aspect of your life? Why did it happen? It may be because, maybe from small, we've heard a lot of people putting us down. And now that we are at an age that we can understand, really telling ourselves that we can choose to change, or we can choose to not accept those negative things that were told to us before. Because a lot of the dialogues that we say to ourselves is dialogues that we've heard from family members, sometimes sadly from parents as well, from siblings. So that it kind of starts from there, and that's sometimes what goes on in our mind. So knowing that now as adults we have the power to choose whether we are going to hold on to those statements, or we are going to change that, and really working on what we are good at. What are we really, what we can get good at, or what are those things that we can work on, that will help us feel a little more better about ourselves. Yeah.
I have a question. I have so many questions though. There's this one question. I'm feeling sleepy the whole day, even after like taking a good 7, 8 hours of sleep. So can stress or something related to it be behind it, be the reason to it?
Yeah, sleep or it's called hypersomnia. Insomnia is not getting sleep. Hypersomnia is too much of sleep. So it can be a symptom of certain mental health conditions like depression. Sometimes we feel like avoiding whatever's happening around us, so we feel more sleepy. But actually seeing or maybe setting something that you're really good in as soon as you wake up. So waking up to something you're excited for. So keep that first thing of the day that you want to get up to do, you're excited to get up for. Because usually when we get up, we're like, oh my God, work, or oh my God, classes. So we don't really feel like getting up sometimes. So keep that first thing you do in the morning, something that you like to do, whether it's listening to music, whether it's talking to your significant other, keep that something that you really like to do immediately after you get up. So it acts as a motivation. But definitely look into other things that it may be an indicator of some mental health condition as well.
Okay. I have
Yeah.
three
Ruchika, can I ask
questions.
questions? I'm also getting a lot of questions.
Please do that. Maybe our questions are the
Okay.
same.
Before doing the questions,
Yeah, so
yeah, we'll just end this session officially, and then we can continue, like extend the session for next 15 minutes for the Q&A. So, shall I stop the recording now, or shall we include those questions in the recording?
it's okay, you can end the recording.